Hi everyone, Father Carl here. I'm happy to be offering this reflection on today's gospel, where we hear Jesus talk about being raised up, lifted up, and glorified. What does that mean for Jesus? And what does it mean for us as his disciples? Let's take a look at the gospel. Consider architects and how they know that height lifts our perspective and moves us to awe. Think about the beauty of Ascension Church, or if you've been here to St. Giles, how our beautiful churches kind of lift us up and help us to feel that sense of awe before God. We have high vaulted ceilings, the oversized stained glass windows towering overhead, grand altars that sweep upward, all of this to promote perspective. When someone or something is lifted up, it draws our attention. Remember how the victorious football team holds that football-shaped trophy up high when they win the NCAA or NFL title game, or the way that they hoist the winning coach up on their shoulders in jubilation. We lift up that which we honor or the person that we glorify. As we listen today to the words of Jesus in John's Gospel, we hear Jesus say, "When I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everything to myself." Earlier he says, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." This image of Jesus being lifted up and glorified is familiar to the readers of John's Gospel. But what does it mean for Jesus to be lifted up? Well, one meaning has to do with celebration and joy, as Jesus points us towards his glorification. He points us to that time when God will lift Jesus up out of the grave on Easter morning, lift him up in the ascension back to God in glory to be with the Father for all eternity. So physically, literally, spiritually, Jesus will be lifted up by God. And friends, our hope to be lifted up out of the grip of sin and death, it's anchored in this lifting up of Jesus by God. But there's another side to this lifting up in John's Gospel. And unfortunately, it's more somber and dark. Jesus uses the image to refer to his pending death on the cross. If you know anything about Roman crucifixion, you know that to be crucified was a form of inhumane torture, and it was a very slow death. The crucified victim was stripped of their clothing, stripped of their dignity, and it was a public humiliation that the Romans used to warn others of the awful fate that awaited any of the enemies of Rome. One was crucified in front of the city gates by raising them above the eye level of the crowd. It was a form of humiliation. We can understand why Jesus would have prayed then, "Father, save me from this hour." Well, all of this tells us something about our own discipleship as we strive to follow Jesus. Jesus is very truthful with the disciples, telling them discipleship means walking a similar path at times of suffering with its own distinctiveness, because no two disciples share the same path. Think about the millions of good, faith-filled people who face the cross of pain and suffering and death because of disease or poverty, prejudice, and war. I think today of the many people who have lost loved ones during this pandemic without the peacefulness of being able to say goodbye to their loved ones or just to hold their hand during that time of transition. In the past year, we've seen these fierce forest fires and severe storms that have made people lose homes and jobs and businesses, irreplaceable family treasures. And recently and sadly, Our church leadership in the Vatican issued a statement declaring that the Catholic Church will not bless same-sex unions. This deepening and causing pain and hurt to millions of LGBTQ Catholics, if not walking away from the church, certainly will deepen the struggle for working towards full recognition and inclusion. That struggle continues. So you see, disciples have many different crosses that we do carry. But here is the other fact that we learn about discipleship. Here's the good news. It's the great surprise and mystery of God's redemption. It's His plan. In a way that only God could imagine and only God could have accomplished, Jesus' shameful torture on the cross became the symbol of life for the followers of Jesus. So you see, the very cross has become the symbol of God's love in action. God triumphs over evil and is the source of humanity's healing and life. God triumphs over evil. So friends, today, whatever sadness or sorrow or hurt in life you may carry, remember that as you look at the crucifix in church, as you see a crucifix above any church building, no matter where you may be, remember what it's meant to tell us. It's meant to help raise our sight to worship and trust Jesus. To trust Jesus, the one who was lifted up in both pain and glory. As disciples, can we trust? There will be times of sadness, there will be times of sorrow and pain, but with Jesus, we will be lifted up in glory.